it's really interesting for me to be here. You have a wonderful energy every time I go to an AI event. I see an amazing crowd of people, and one of the reasons I believe is that what AI does is makes the whole computer power, which was before that reserved only for IT guys, accessible to a whole new area of people. A whole new kind of energy is entering this creation market. I think that we'll have some wonderful results shortly. As René said, there are 3 reasons to be here, apart from being invited from 11 to conduct these interviews. First, that a few months ago, I started building a product. I'm not sure it's right to call it a startup. It's an idea, and we have a company that we established to pursue this idea. But basically, we are automating content creation for companies in order to give them the ability to have their own audience and then convert it into clients. And that gives me some understanding about AI and building products with AI. I used to work as a journalist, and that gives me the authority to conduct interviews. And actually, my last role, I was serving as editor-in-chief. It is something like a product manager, but from media point of view. But the more important person here is Hristo, and I really enjoyed reading about the company you have created, and especially about the transformation you're undergoing right now, because I believe that it's much harder to transform a company into a new kind of organization, which includes a lot of AI on every different department and process, than to create a new one from the scratch. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it must be challenging, right?
Yeah, I would say that we already did this process. So I would say we are not currently transforming, but we did that maybe 2 years ago. So as was mentioned from the very beginning, we had this notion to build a community, not only a company. And we had this limitation of 150 people, because we were sure that there is a limit to how many people you can have and still have a community. So from day one, we knew that this is going to help us in a lot of things, in having a strong culture, in working, innovating, iterating. All of those things, of course, are beneficial, but it brings its own problems. For example, how to be competitive, how to continue to grow, how to compete with companies that are, say, 500 or 800 or 1,000 people, while still remaining 150. And from day one, we knew the technology will be the solution. Although, since we started in 21st, back then we didn't knew that, especially that technology is going to be the solution. But once it arrived and was popularized by OpenAI, and they make this huge leap, we were sure that this is the technology that's going to bring us to the next level.
Do you remember what was exactly the aha moment? What was the moment that made you think this is not just a tool, but the foundation of what we're going to do?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good question. We had a client that was doing, so to say, processing of data, unstructured data, and they had a team of 2 or 3 data scientists that were trying to basically do this data classification from images, and they were doing this from 9 months or 10 months. And for just 2 or 3 days, we sit down and made a proof of concept with back then ChatGPT, and it yielded results like 85-90%, which before that was like 10 to 15%, which is more in the area of error than some meaningful results. And somewhere there, I was sure that we are into something that is of an exponential growth, and we need to be on board and grow with it.
Okay. Is it mandatory to use AI in your company, or?
Yeah, it is. The short answer, yeah, it is. Of course, you cannot start a transformation like this just to go out there and say it is mandatory, start from tomorrow. We had a lot of talks with the people back then, why this is important, how it's gonna change, why it is not something that threatens their job, but it's exactly the opposite. It's something that will help them be better at their job and to accomplish more things, and of course to leave it to it some tasks that you don't want to do anyway. So the boring stuff. And but what one important thing I think is you can't improve something you don't measure. So what we did from day one, we introduced a system where everybody can submit its use case. So how everybody uses the AI and whether it helped him or not. Of course, it's a personal thing. So I think it helped me by that margin, or I think it didn't help me. As you can imagine, we barely had any case somebody submitting that it didn't help. And it really helped a lot of people to see at one place how the others are using it and generate more and more ideas. And that was one of the things that helped us identify who are the first early adopters, so-called early adopters, but also to identify who are the people that have troubles using it right now, so we can work with them as well. And in a couple of months, we had 100% adoption. And of course, the fact that every use case you have submitted into the system bring you to a watery where we give them iPhones, MacBooks, and whatever, also helped into the whole process. But apart from this, of course, it was more the icing, the topping of the cake. But yeah, through such measures, we were able to really quickly get up speed.
There's one very funny problem I'm seeing with AI. There are a group of people who are underestimating AI, but the funny part is that there are all the people who are overestimating AI. And I was wondering whether you have experienced the same thing. Some people from your team that had higher hopes that actually AI is able to deliver.
Not sure, to be honest. It's interesting because the AI at first was, oh, can AI do that? Oh, can AI do that? And we were fascinated by what are the things that AI can do. Right now, it's more the opposite. We are surprised when we see something that AI cannot do. That's more becoming the norm. And for example, we have an autonomous AI agent that is writing tests. And a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't able to do one specific task. And the whole team, we sit down, they investigated it the whole day, but at the end of the day, it was apparent that it's not working. And we were like a little bit feeling defeated, but I was trying to cheer them up and just said, okay, we just know where the frontier is right now. It's perfectly okay. I went home, have dinner, and before going to bed, I like to read some tech news. And I saw that Anthropic have released their next version of their model. And I was like, okay, that may be the solution. So I went to Teams and write down in a Teams channel with the guys, hey, this is released. You should check it out tomorrow. And the response was really interesting because the response was, nobody's waiting for tomorrow. We are doing it right now. and actually, in about an hour, they implemented the new model, and it went. It solved the problem. So that's really what I'm talking about. Getting up into this growth and making use of it, and not waiting or just waiting for artificial general intelligence or artificial super intelligence. I mean, it will be wonderful when they happen, but we can leverage a lot of things right now, today.
Are you afraid of some of the aspects of AI? I can tell you one of the stories I started to be afraid when one of the first times when we connected a bunch of AI agents into a swarm of agents, and they started talking to each other because we were producing content, and they have different steps and different tasks, and they were starting to thank each other. Thank you very much for the information which you provided for me. It was very helpful. I'll give you this information, and I hope that it will do a great job for you. And suddenly a conversation started. It was a little bit frightening, frankly, because
Well, to be honest, I'm more on if it is a scale, I'm more on the excited part rather than the afraid part. Of course, there are things that I know how we Europeans are labeled as over-regulating and stuff like this, but for sure it's a technology that will need to take its part into that area. Maybe not the way that it's currently approached, but it will need to have its border, its limits when it grows. And for those things, saying thank you, I just recently read something funny that being polite costs us millions, and they have calculated how many times people say to AI thank you, and the AI responded thank you and multiplied by the tokens. So being polite literally cost us millions.
I remember I've read somewhere that you actually have a project in which 90% of the code is vibe coding, is AI generated. Is it true?
Yeah, it depends how you describe vibe coding, but yeah, it's more than 90% generated by AI. I would say that currently there are two types of appliances of AI in terms of coding. One is when you have like greenfield project that is for testing, or not even for testing, but project where you can, it can even be a full-blown project, but it's a project that you have all the freedom. You don't need to take into account anything else. And in one such project for educational institution, what we did was to create an agent, structure the code in a way that it's disposable, and part of the code it's repeated. Something that is the worst thing you can do as a developer, but something that really helps the agent to have the notion of disposable code, so it can generate separate parts and not reuse them. And we were able to create both the agent and the whole project, and actually finish almost 30% not behind, but before
earlier.
Before the deadline. So it was an amazing project that we delivered, and it's used since then. We have next versions, so it's also maintainable, and it's an amazing example. Of course, that's not something we can do with our primary clients, which are in the aviation, where you have a lot of regulations, where you have a lot of things that are already in place, and you need to take them into account. But there you can approach it differently. There you can identify tasks or things that are repeatable and approach them, not approaching the whole project to be written by AI, but approach different steps that are currently being done by people, And in the most cases, those people don't like doing them because they are boring, they are repetitive, and you can help both them and the product owners because they will have more capacity in those people to deliver nice features and move the product ahead.
And what's the difference between a code generated by AI and by human?
That's a wonderful question. And from time to time, we are making an experiment where we take code written by people, by humans, and code generated by different AI models. The main idea of this process is to evaluate the AI models. But of course, why not? We put some human input there as well. And to be honest, it's indistinguishable. It's indistinguishable at best. The way that typically people can say that this is written by AI, it's if it is better. So that's really something interesting when you take it in isolation, of course. When you take just one small piece of code that is generated by AI and somebody has written it a couple of months ago, so you can put it to some people, don't tell them which is what, and just tell them, okay, evaluate them. And I would say currently it's indistinguishable.
One of the feedbacks we have from one of the software engineers we are working with is that the Vibe code is much longer than the human-generated one. Sometimes 3 to 5 times longer than generated by human, but it might be his experience.
As I said, vibe coding is totally different area. I'm never taking the human out of the loop. So even in this project where we have 90+% generated code, the generated code was still reviewed by humans. So it was still reviewed and they were still applying thought process on this, and they were giving the agent directions and steering it, saying, okay, this is too long or this is too complicated. We need it simpler. In my point of view, the agents, in terms of coding, they should act more like a colleague. So they need to be steerable. They need to be integrated. And that's the way, yeah, we need to treat them as a colleagues. That's the only way for people to accept them, to work with them, and to utilize them.
Do we have time for questions from the audience? So, okay. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand and...
Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Bogdan. I would like to ask you a question about how your employees are using the AI. I mean, do they have, like, all of them have ChatGPT, or you created agents for the legal department, agents for finance, agents for... And how a day in their life is looking? How do they use AI?
Yeah. So
Thank you.
The short answer is yes. We are literally using everything because this is so dynamic ecosystem that new tools are spawning overnight. So we are using company-wide the latest versions of ChatGPT. We are using Copilot, we are using Cursor, we are using Augment Code. So in terms of development tools, we are using basically everything. Some of the tools are suggested from the people, so they are in process of evaluation. Somebody saw something and say, okay, we want to try Windsurf. I think it's better than Cursor AI that we already have as a company. And he starts doing it with Windsurf. And in terms of agents, it's different story. It's something we build and give them so they can utilize. So, for example, the agent for testing, they know that they can write their code, and as they would do with some, say, colleague, they just trigger a flow that writes the tests for them, and they need to review them before proceeding. So just to address in a way your second question, there they didn't change a lot, but I hope and I really believe that their day-to-day work is way more interesting now than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So how you made sure that sensitive data does not get on the internet about your customers, about your, IPO and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's why we utilize, first of all, agents that are deployed and are using LLMs deployed on our environment. So we utilize open source models that we fine tune and train and use them. And as for the more popular tools, we just make sure that we have all the agreements, that we use servers in EU, and that we have all the contracts underlining what we agreed with our clients.
One last question from the audience, if you guys have any. Yes, Stoyan.
Hello, Hristo. How do you see the future of junior developers? Having no experience or coming from the university or from Telerik Academy? Because I'm facing the problem with younger guys, and can you describe what is your experience and expectations?
Yeah, thank you. That's really a wonderful question. We are working a lot with junior or inexperienced people, with Telerik, with other academies. We even have 6 people that started just a month ago. It's challenging. I mean, I don't have a silver bullet or a recipe, but what I know for sure is that we need those young guys and girls. We need to take them now, work with them, and have them grown by 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's challenging. It's becoming, for me personally, it starts becoming challenging because we are from different generations, which is one kind of a problem. But the other kind of a problem is this term that we used several times, the vibe coding. You don't need to understand what happens underneath. You just copy paste and hope it starts working. This, of course, cannot work with junior people. You still need to have them engaged to understand the whole thing. I was even speculating, for example, right now, we have a tool that basically offloads all our developers from writing tests. They may not write a single test anymore, but I mean, how you evaluate the testing code in 6 months, in 12 months, in 2 years, if you didn't write a test yourself last couple of years. Again, I don't have the solution. I just know that this is a problem, something we need to keep focus on, whether it's going to be like pilots that needs to have several landings on manual and the other can be on autopilot. I'm not sure. But what I'm sure, returning to your original question about the junior people, it's that we will always need bright, motivated young people to join and help us grow.
Thank you very much, Hristo.
Thank you. Thank you, Hristo, very much.